Of course.
Sweet. I normally do a quick formal
make sure it doesn't have my, I don't have any pants on, so I'm just kidding.
It's all good, man. We'll blur it out anyway. So
I need a long blur, man. A long blur. I'm gonna use the blur.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I'll keep that in there.
I got you. Let's go.
Let's do this. Okay. Well, everybody, welcome back to a very exciting episode of the Storybox podcast. Today, I'm delighted to welcome someone who I've admired for quite some time now and love all his content, Shawn Stevenson. Now, if you don't know who this incredible human being is, you're about to get to know more about him and his wisdom and advice that will be very beneficial to a lot of you. But Shawn is a best-selling author and creator of the #1 nutrition and fitness podcast called The Model Health Show. He's a graduate of the University of Missouri, St. Louis, with a background in biology and kinesiology. I can't even say that word, man. It's crazy. But Shawn went on to be the founder of Advanced. Sorry, 1 second. I got to
tell. Somebody's trying to get you.
Sorry, man. It's my mom. She's saying it's urgent.
No worries. Oh, okay. All good, man. Got to get the moms.
All right. Sorry about that.
Mom.
I just let her know. Okay. So back into the introduction. I apologize for that. I'll fix it up.
No worries, bro. Like I came on 5 minutes late. Don't worry about it.
No, all good, man. Okay. So you are the founder of the Advanced Integrative Health Alliance, a successful company that provides wellness services for both individuals and organizations worldwide. Shawn is also a dynamic keynote speaker who has spoken for TEDx universities and numerous organizations with outstanding reviews. Shawn has also written 2 best-selling books. His latest book is called Eat Smarter, but he's got another book called Sleep Smarter. Shawn, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the Storybox podcast today.
It's my honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, honestly, I'm excited, thrilled, all the emotions, all the above, really, to have you here. Before we get started and I ask you all these great questions that I have roaming around my brain, what does success look like for you?
Wow, that is a powerful question. That's a really powerful question. For me, I really believe that success is fluid. That answer is going to be fluid, depending on where you are right now in your story. So for me right now, success looks like impact, being able to impact as many lives as possible with my life energy that I have, and helping the world to be a little bit better than I found it. That for me is success, while also having a lot of love and connection with my family. So a lot of times success can pull you in either one of these directions, where maybe you've got a really great family experience, but maybe your work is suffering. You're not doing what you want to do professionally, or maybe your body is crushing it right now with your fitness goals, but maybe you're struggling with connecting with your kids. Mm-hmm. So for me, is making impact in the world, the greatest impact possible, while having incredible connection with the people under my roof that I need to be most protective and loving and nurturing and giving towards. So that's success for me. That's what it is right now at this time.
When was the moment that you realized this? Has it been like this gradual thing over time that you wanted to make this kind of impact, or was there like a catalyst moment somewhere in your life?
Definitely there was a catalyst moment. Mm-hmm. But I think, like a lot of people, and we all kind of think it's unique to us, that we feel like we're destined for greatness. We're destined for something special. There's something special about us. And sometimes we can press that down and act like we don't believe that. But it's the nature of you being here in this body and seeing through life in your eyes. It is incredibly special. It is incredibly unique in and of itself by its very nature. And so when you have somebody to tell you that you are special, that you are going to do great things, it really just affirms this inherent uniqueness and power that we have within us. And for me, that was my grandmother. Mm-hmm. So I kind of always felt like I'm going to do something special, even though I really didn't see what would be considered special in my environment. anything but.
Mm.
My grandmother and grandfather, they worked at a factory. My mother had me when she was a teenager. If you look at my birth certificate, there's no father on the birth certificate. All right. It's not immaculate conception, but, he just wasn't around. I never met the guy, but I did have a stepfather, and he was just such a light, but he also battled with alcoholism. And this was a time in my environment, crack cocaine, we live next door to a crack house, so he's damaged his body and his brain to the degree that, he's in adult living facility, so growing up and having all these conditions, I didn't really see what success looked like, or greatness, or impact, or even getting outside of my environment. But that catalyst was for change. After I already think life is tough enough, I lost my health, which truly we take it for granted until we don't have it. This is such a truth. When you have a migraine, or when you're just have a terrible, absolutely terrible sickness that you're experiencing, or the list goes on and on, everything else becomes so unimportant. You just want to feel better so that you can live your life. And so my health was taken away in such a dramatic fashion. I was diagnosed at the age of 20 with the so-called incurable spinal condition, rapid degeneration of the disc in between my vertebrae. And also my bone density was so low that when I was just 15 at track practice running, I broke my hip. And so getting this diagnosis that I'm never going to get better, everything is just going to be a slow decline. They're just going to try to slow the process of decline. It's incurable, and there's nothing I can do about it. And so going through that experience, believing it, because I was very uneducated about how my body even works, even though I live with my body all the time. And my physician telling me, and even though he was clearly not healthy himself, and it took me years, it's very recent that I just actually looked at that, wait a minute. He's clearly, but we might circle back and talk about the magnitude of that. But to tell me that there's nothing I could do about the situation, and also to get another opinion, a second, third opinion, for them to tell me the same thing, that this is incurable. And then to finally, it took 2 years, but because at that point, even though I see myself as a very logical, assertive, I can get it done type of personality, because of the authority figure, the authority that I had in my mind, and he must be right. He must know better than I do about my destiny.
Yeah.
Right. It even sounds crazy coming off my lips right now, but I believed him. It's called a nocebo effect. This is when you get a negative injunction from an authority figure, and the human brain is the most powerful pharmacy in the known universe. And I'm not saying this to exaggerate. I'm saying this because it's specifically designed. The chemical, every thought you have is correlating chemistry, but the chemicals are specifically designed for your receptor sites. They're tailor-made drugs for you. So it is very powerful. And so the nocebo effect is when you get a negative injunction that something bad is going to happen. This is incurable. You'll never walk again. You have 6 weeks to live. All these things that we hear, you're going to be on medication for the rest of your life. And you see the change that happens. And we have mountains of data now showing this. I just shared a study recently on social media with this massive meta-analysis published in one of our most prestigious journals, calling out and speaking about how important it is for physicians to be more careful in the words that they use because of the negative health ramifications. And also on the other side, a placebo, a lot of folks don't realize this, a placebo in clinical trials, the gold standard of trials, placebo-controlled, randomized controlled trial. We have to account for the placebo. We actually have to design studies to account for the fact that the placebo is going to work for a significant amount of people. And what we call these fake drugs or fake surgeries, fake treatments, where it might be nothing more than an inert injection or an inert sugar pill, or sham surgeries where, you put a monitor up for the patient to see this, because we could do that now. We could actually witness a surgery, and you see an incision happening, but they actually don't do any therapeutic treatment. They just kind of open it up and close it, or play somebody else's video. And seeing the person's meniscus heal, seeing their ACL heal, or whatever the case might be. We have data on all of these things with people believing that they're taking a drug to normalize their blood sugar or their blood pressure. The list goes on and on. On average, placebos are 33% effective in treating and effectively, right, quote, curing different conditions, right? Again, normalizing blood pressure. So going up against lisinopril in a clinical trial, somebody taking a placebo, believing that it's going to lower their blood pressure normalizes. All right. So very powerful. And to put a bow on this story of like this catalyst moment was I realized I'd been outsourcing. It took 2 years. I've been outsourcing my belief about what's possible for me to people who meant well, but they didn't walk in my shoes. And they already told me that they can't help me. And so I finally asked this very powerful fundamental question: what can I do to get better? I had never thought about it in 2 years. I had completely outsourced my health in any possibility. And by asking that question, I started to see there were things already, solutions they already existed. I just wasn't attuned to them. And so long story short, over the course of the next few weeks, it stretches out to 9 months later, getting a scan done on my spine and seeing the degeneration completely reversed. My 2 herniated discs had retracted and they were in their proper position. You can now see the light shining through my disc, where before it looked like little crispy pieces of bologna that had been so degenerated. My physician said I had the spine of an 80-year-old man when I was 20. And when you have this experience where something so-called incurable is no longer a part of your life, it creates a level of power and knowing in you that nobody can touch. And so that catalyst moment for me was when it went from myself experiencing this to seeing people at my university campus, my professors, my fellow students, faculty members who saw this physical transformation that took place and asking me for help, and then seeing it again and again with these conditions, of these situations that they were told they can't improve. This thing can't get better. They're going to live with this thing forever. And shifting all my coursework over to, biology, kinesiology, nutritional science, all this stuff, opening up my clinical practice as a nutritionist and working, every single day. That catalyst moment was coming back from literally rock bottom, where I lost everything. I lost my health and everything associated with my relationships, my financial security, almost lost my education. I was barely hanging on at college at that point. And coming back from that, and then shifting my life from one of being self-centered, because I had to be self-centered to survive in the environment that I lived in. I had to look out for myself, to being focused on service and being others-centric. That was the catalyst, man, was not just healing from what I went through, but seeing it happen in other people just created this level of authority and obsession and love and passion that I think comes across in a lot of the things that I'm doing today.
What a story, man. And I think everything that you are doing right now is translating across to so many people. I mean, I'm here in Sydney, Australia, and I learned about you last year, and I just soaked up all your knowledge, all the wisdom. And I think it's important for a lot of people to understand and listen to that kind of message that you're putting out there. You do a lot of research. You talk about a lot of studies as well that have been actually done that we actually are naive about. We don't do, for me, I wouldn't go and do the research myself, but you've gone and done it for me. And you're putting it out there for people to actually say, this is real. This is a real study. So what I'm curious about is, Shawn, why isn't this kind of stuff that you're talking about, and I'm sure we'll get into so much other amazing content in a moment, but why isn't this really being taught in our educational system?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll just use myself. Again, I've worked with thousands of people, but I'll use myself as an example since we were just talking about me. Because for some folks, they're experiencing this very condition right now. They're experiencing degenerative disc disease. And because now it's become much more of an issue, just like everything else has. Alzheimer's has skyrocketed, type 2 diabetes, obesity, heart disease, cancer, everything keeps getting worse, everything. And it's as if it's not happening. We're not noticing everything keeps trending up. When we have $4 trillion here in the United States, $4 trillion invested in our healthcare system last year. All right. Well, now we're at 2020, but 2021, but it was 2019. But here's to use me as an example. The most important thing, one of the most fundamental things that changed and transformed my health and my body was I asked a very simple question. If the disc in between my vertebrae, if they're degenerating, if I'm losing tissue, what is it made of? What are my discs made of? If my bone density just keeps declining, what are my bones actually made of? And on the surface, there's a nutrient standing at the door, which is calcium because of marketing. But by asking these questions and having that investigative capacity that I had, always, doing well in school and all that stuff, but now I have a directive. And so looking to the data, now I find that there's 20 other nutrients that are more important than calcium. You just don't get the milk mustache along with it. And I'm deficient in 19 of the 20 for sure. Silica, sulfur-bearing amino acids. We even need omega-3 fatty acids for bone density. All right. It's a big player in that, but you never hear that. And it's one of the biggest nutrient deficiencies, not just here in the United States, but just all quote industrialized countries. It's one of the biggest deficiencies, massively deficient. And so asking, what are these tissues made of? Your body literally cannot create the tissues if it doesn't have the raw materials to do so. And the reason that what is being taught right now, and really with Eat Smarter coming out and just became the number one new release here in the United States of all books, which is crazy. It's absolutely nuts. And I see Matthew McConaughey back there on your bookshelf. Eat Smarter it was the top 10 of all nonfiction books sold in the United States with Matthew McConaughey, with Barack Obama's book. It's nuts. And it's a book about health and about food, because this is the point. Food is what everything about you is made of. When I'm seeing you right now and you're seeing me, we're seeing the food that we've eaten. Our brains that allow us to have thoughts, feelings, and emotion, our brain is made of food. The structures that enable thinking, the dendrites, the axon terminals, the gray matter, the white matter, everything about us is made from food. I know the top cardiologists in the world, the top gastroenterologists in the world, the top neuroscientists in the world. Every single one of those organs that they treat and analyze is made from food. A cardiologist might spend 12 years in school. And at most, if they're lucky, they get a couple of weeks of training in nutrition. The fundamental flaw with this is that the heart is fucking made of food. It's made of the food that we eat. The blood running through our arteries, our veins, our arteries themselves, they're all made from food. How can you treat an organ if you don't even know what the fuck it's made of? It's just so obvious. It is a fundamental flaw in the system. A model can only be as good as the underlying premise of that model. And the model that our system of health is built on does not give credit or acknowledgement to the thing that we're actually made of. We're made of food. This is so to answer the question, why is this it seems like such a crazy idea that food matters so much. It's because of our system of healthcare doesn't acknowledge the very thing that we're made of. It is a big problem, but my mission while I'm here on this planet is to change this. It's already happening, but we need something to jettison all of this old way of thinking. We're still basing so much of what we're doing on Newtonian physics. We got quantum physics. It's been around for quite some time, and understanding there's so much more at play here, and we know nothing. We know nothing. The top virologist, this is a big topic right now. The top virologist in the world, the top guy, all right? He's the best of the best, all right? He's got awards on awards, degrees on degrees. He knows less than a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent about viruses and all the viruses that there are. Do you understand? He doesn't know shit. And I think that a big part of our evolution and our growth towards real transformation and health of our society is being more honest about the fact that we know so little, and that's what I've really experienced. I've been in this field for 19 years and I marvel at how little we know. because what it really is just like intellect and intelligence and IQ and success and education. It's really just a process of becoming a little less dumb. All right. Because we don't know anything, but then we frame things, especially in our conventional medicine, like, oh, they've got this degree, they've got this accreditation, they must be, so brilliant. Our system is wonderful for emergency medicine. Like, seriously, there's no place better to be, Australia, the UK, the United States, Hong Kong, wherever the case might be, where there's so much advanced technology. If somebody has an arm hanging off, like, you're not going to use some turmeric. You're not going to don't give me some omega-3 fatty acids. Like, fix it, sew that up. But for chronic diseases, the thing that kills millions of people every year, heart disease, cancer, diabetes. Here in the United States, obesity is a causative factor in 400,000 deaths a year. It's as if it doesn't exist. These systems that are not focused on, let's remove the underlying cause of the condition. And here in the United States, and I like to, of course, share this because I'm just a very logical, analytical person. Nature versus nurture, I'm not sure, but it's just how I'm wired up. The Journal of the American Medical Association, our most prestigious medical journal, our most prestigious, do you hear me? Our most prestigious journal, a 2018 study, they affirmed that poor diet is the #1 cause of chronic diseases in the United States. It's the #1 cause, but yet, are we doing anything about it? Are we talking about it? Nope. The data exists. Our most prestigious medical journal, in a meta-analysis, all these incredible researchers have said it, but our system doesn't address food. It doesn't matter. My physician, when I was 20 years old, and this is one of those Back to the Future moments. I see Marty McFly back there. I literally use this analogy because I don't know how it happened. I had no grounds for me to ask him the question that I asked. It was as if I went back to the future, like myself now jumped into that body of my 20-year-old self. And I asked him when he told me that this is incurable, because I was like, okay, so what do we do to fix this? After he told me the diagnosis, he literally looked at me with pity and kind of pumped his hands like, slow down, son. This is incurable. I'm sorry. This is something that just happens. And I'm sorry it happened to you. He apologized. And I asked him, and I have no idea how or why I asked him. I asked him, does this have anything to do with what I'm eating? Should I change my diet? Should I exercise differently? I asked that question. It was a miracle. And he cocked his head to the side and he shook his head. He was like, he looked like he was just feeling so sorry for me. He was like, this has nothing to do with what you're eating. This is something that just happens. I'm sorry, son. We're going to get you some medication to help you to manage this. But he said these words too. He said, this is just something you're going to have to live with. Fuck. I mean, what can you believe the mind manipulation that happens in that moment? But, again, he was doing what he taught. He was obese. My physician, and he was one of the best. He was obese and he was telling me about my health. He was telling me what my potential was, and not any knock against him. If I come, my family, we'll just say it's 30 of us in my family. Growing up, 28 of my family members are obese. Okay. This isn't a knock. These are good people. My auntie doesn't want to be obese. My mother doesn't want to be obese. She's trying. She's doing the things. She's doing the slim fast. She's doing the point system. She's cutting her calories, but the system is flawed. It doesn't work because it's not focused on real tenets of what nutrition is, real tenets of what health is. So it's not a knock on him. He's probably very likely, I never got a chance to talk to him again. He's very likely doing what he believes to be right for his nutrition. It's just not working. And then he creates a state of learned helplessness because it's not working, and he's punishing himself because even though the system he's trying to operate in doesn't work, he's blaming himself.
Yeah.
right? He just needs more whole grains. I just need more. I just need to, cut out more of this, cut out more of that because of the diet framework that we were taught, in that time. Low fat. I need less fat. It was low fat was the thing then. I need to get low fat cheese. I need some fucking low fat water. And then now I'm going to be able to achieve these goals. But clearly it wasn't working. And so that's, in a nutshell, I guess, what's really going on right now.
I could have just passed you the mic and continue going on and on and on. But congratulations on your book being so successful, firstly. And secondly, what I do also want to go down, I had two questions that sort of go in opposite directions, but I'll ask this question first because it seemed to come up twice. Genetics and looking at how we are made structurally, our DNA, that sort of thing. Firstly, for you, was it because of your DNA that you ended up with this genetic disease, or was there some underlining, you just got it all of a sudden? And can we change our DNA through food?
That's a wonderful question. So to start at the end, there are entire fields of nutrigenomics and nutrigenetics that specifically look at the mountains of data that we have now on how food is an epigenetic controller, how every bite of food that we take, every single bite changes our genetic expression. It's incredibly powerful, but there was a phase here, we're still dealing with the remnants of it, that your genes control your destiny. Your gene, we finally discovered the thing that makes us who we are, our personality, our body composition, our diseases. It's the genes, and you're a victim. You got these genes. If you've got the FTO gene associated with obesity, that's your lot in life. But that negates the fact that, 40% of the people who have the FTO gene never become obese, but so that's starting with the end in mind. But, the other side of the equation, again, looking at myself, in talking with the top cell biologists, arguably in the world, and also, a pioneer in epigenetics, right? So Dr. Bruce Lipton, which epigenetics means above genetic control, right? Epi, like epidermis, is above the dermis, your skin. So epigenetics is, again, this is the leading science. All other sciences should go below it, but our system is still not operating with epigenetics at the tip of the spear, which it is. And instead, we're trying to treat symptoms with pharmaceuticals, with synthetic drugs, and not looking at what is controlling, what is creating the disease expression.
Yeah.
And I say that because I wasn't born with a broken hip. I wasn't born with degenerative disc disease. Everything was going pretty good, but something happened. Something happened. I did have it there in my kind of, I quote, genetic cards to have what we call with epigenetics, what it is really, there's environmental influences that control what your genes are doing, external and internal. So external meaning your exposure to toxicants, your exposure to other people, your exposure to, to microbes, which I say that purposefully as well, because gene for gene, we are as humans, we're 99% of our genes that we carry with us, gene for gene, are the genes of our microbes, not human genes. All right. I want people to get that. We have trillions of bacteria, viruses, archaea, fungi, trillions that live in and on our bodies. And if we're talking about specifically bacteria, that far outnumbers our human genes, right? So there's even genetic expression, which we know today, the genetic expression, because of the environmental influence of our bacteria, controls our health as well, our health outcomes for things related from everything from heart disease to obesity to cancer and more. So with that said, with this umbrella of epigenetics, something happened along the way. And we could say that, and I don't like this term because it's not exactly how it works, but just to give an analogy of a gene getting turned on or turned off, like a light switch. This is not accurate, but kind of gives us an understanding of kind of what is happening when we say genetic expression. And so there are certain environmental influences that can determine what kind of copies are getting printed out of you. All right. What your genes are doing. Okay. And so if I'm exposed to a toxicant, we'll say chlorpyrifos, one of the most widely used pesticides in the United States for many years. Now we've got study after study, increased incidence of birth defects, specifically brain damage to newborn babies, from pregnant mothers exposed to it. Massive, we're talking 400%, 500%, 600% increased incidence of miscarriage for mothers exposed to this. This very damaging, again, it damages the nervous system. And again, we think, oh, it's just the babies.
Yeah.
What? Every one of our cells has an equivalent of a nervous system, right? Even our bacteria cells, we call it these single-celled organisms, but they're able to respond to pain, to communicate with each other. Like, just don't get me started. Sounds very similar to a nervous system, but we haven't come up with a term for it yet because we don't know shit.
Yeah.
But we know principles. That's the thing, what I'm trying to implore people to understand. We know principles, but everything that we think we know, there's something that refutes it. So anyways, getting exposure to this, it changes the genetic expression. It changes the outpicturing and how the baby is being manufactured. There's a certain template of how it's supposed to go, but they're being born with a true defect. Now, here's the rub, and I want everybody to really get this. In speaking with Dr. Bruce Lipton and other cell biologists, leading people in epigenetics, less than 1% of all diseases is from a true genetic defect. Less than 1%. And here we are still walking around talking about genes for this, genes for that. It's because of the genes. You have a gene for this, you need to go ahead and get in an advanced surgery so that the thing doesn't ever happen. It's completely missing the point. Less than 1%. Something happens along the way. And with nutrigenomics, nutrigenetics, we know how powerful food is in determining our genetic expression. As again, I mentioned earlier, one of our most prestigious journals, finding poor diet is the number one cause of chronic diseases. And the question is, it's just like, well, why? Why is that? I know bad food's bad for you because it's fucking up your genes. It's messing up your genetic expression.
Man, mind blown right there. So saying that food is the most important thing because we are made of food, I'm curious about, because sleep is equally as important in my opinion and what I've learned and done research too. Is that true from your research that sleep and food are equally as important as each other, like they're symbiotic?
Yeah. So these are all things that our genes expect us to do. Our genes expect us to eat real things that they've been associating with for millennia, like through our evolution. So yes, and of course, sleep, this brings up, if we talk about evolutionary biology, sleep is so weird. And you think that because we're incredibly vulnerable. You would think that we would have evolved out of it at this point, right? But it's so important for humanity specifically. Human babies are some of the most vulnerable creatures. Like a giraffe has a baby, like it pops out, you got to get the fuck up because you got to survive right now. All right. Human babies, like they can't do anything. They're just complete and utter, like helpless. And so, but we do a lot more of our development outside of the womb, and babies sleep a tremendous amount. And the same thing for us, we're really just big babies. We just kind of, outpictured and expanded, but we have the same fundamental programming. And sleep is where so many different processes take place, specifically with the human brain, for example. Like it's during sleep that our lymphatic system that's cleaning out, clearing out metabolic waste from the trillions of processes your brain is doing. One of the things that we see with Alzheimer's, one of the main 3 causative factors is an inability of the brain to clean itself. All right. And so what do we have here in the world right now? A massive sleep epidemic, an insomnia epidemic. And here in the United States, 115 million people are regularly sleep deprived. All right. So when I say that, I'm not kidding. And so But also, again, we see rocketing rates of Alzheimer's, and we're just like, oh, damn, this is bad. Like, what can we do? Shh, come on, man. Anyway, so, all right. So with this condition, your lymphatic system that cleans the brain, and this is a shout out to the glial cells that do this process. This system is 10 times more active while you're asleep. It's like, this is when it goes into high gear, cleaning house and making you better. Memory processing takes place while you're sleeping. The list goes on and on and on. So both of these, yes, absolutely. The sleep wellness piece was missing in the conversation, 8 years ago when I first started doing content and talking about this and teaching about it. Now it's Sleep Smarter, my first book, became the first sleep wellness book to become an international bestseller. The first one. I know the guys, I keep saying this, but I know the guys like America's Sleep Doctor, the top sleep experts, in the world. They've written books on the topic, but they weren't really striking that chord because number one, making it approachable for everyday people. Number two, expressing very clearly in a way that makes sense, but also is attractive because sleep can be a boring ass subject. It's like, if you've got 10 options, things to do, even watch Netflix, like fuck sleep. Like why? So it's making it more sexy and attractive to talk about it. And number three, the practical things. And in the book, there's 21 clinically proven strategies, clinically proven, all backed by science, even the weird ones. There's all science to demonstrate how you can improve your sleep quality. And I knew this in my clinical practice. I know that people want change. They want change. They want the weight to come off. They want their blood sugar to normalize. They don't want to be on lisinopril their whole lives. They don't want to be on the statin. I know they want change, but they don't want to change that much. As a species, we get comfortable with who we are. Even if we might not, quote, like who we are, it's what we know. And so our number one driving force of our psychology is to stay congruent with who we believe ourselves to be. And so getting outside of that, it just needs to be little nuggets. And so I went into the data, found those 21 clinically proven strategies and put them together. And it changed the culture. And I say that honorably and graciously because I'm not supposed to, if you know my background and where I come from, there's no way. Even when I wrote the first version of that book, I lived in Ferguson, Missouri, which everybody's probably heard of at this point, because it's notorious for being a place of heightened tensions amongst its citizens and also with those entrusted in policing our citizens. I come from that place. It is not, I never met a person that's went to college, let alone graduated from college, except maybe like my teachers. Like my chance of success is so nil. It's insane. And it shouldn't be that way because there's so many intelligent, wonderful, smart people living in these communities, living in my community. And so for me to have over there on my bookshelf, there's all translations of Sleep Smarter published by separate publishers in 20 different countries. This book is in bookstores and libraries in Japan. It's incredible. And this is the power of an idea. Everybody listening, you are one idea away from making the impact that you want to make. It's the power of an idea, but not just that. With that, again, it addressed something in the market, but it created an explosion. So many sleep books have come out since. And all because again, like literally people, and I see it like on Amazon, people are riding the coattails of Sleep Smarter success. Like they'll change the name a little bit. Sleep better.
Yeah.
Sleep better. And like riding that, but also some actual accredited books come out, from very, well-meaning and great researchers, but it's changed the culture. Now we have sleep wellness coaches. Now we have all of these incredible, technology associated with improving your sleep quality. But at the end of the day, and to answer this question and bring it all together, food is the most important thing for our sleep quality. I said this earlier, everything about you is made from food, including your sleep-related hormones and neurotransmitters. The very things that enable you to do the sleep thing, to make it actually happen, is made from food. And so we can have the very best mattress and the most fancy, room set up. It's not going to matter if you don't have the raw materials that your sleep-related hormones and neurotransmitters are made of. And so in the book, of course, in Eat Smarter, I dive into the subject and we talk about these good sleep nutrients and really expand the conversation. And we specifically dive in and talk about the things that are through our diet, these epigenetic influences that are damaging our sleep quality and all the science on that because it exists. So I hope that answers the question.
No, it really does. Now, this question might be a little bit stupid, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Have you done or looked at why the human body is really made up of food? Like, why can't it be made up of something else? Why is it specifically food?
This is a wonderful question. That's a brilliant question. This is a question that my 9-year-old son, that a child would ask because they are more tapped in. So when I was talking about this with him, he just didn't believe it. He didn't believe that, like, we're not made from food. Like, it doesn't, how the hell is my smoothie going to become a part of my body? Or somebody else, like, how the fuck does pepperoni pizza become my skin or my teeth? It is a miraculous, very strange process. We do not get, we don't understand it. We can understand principles, but the miracle that makes it happen to turn that food stuff into you stuff, it's far beyond our comprehension. And so with that said, so when people see you, when people see me, when people see anybody listening, when they see you, they see the food that you've eaten or the lack thereof. We're literally made from this. So, we talk about protein as being building blocks. We're largely seeing the proteins that you've eaten. We're seeing the minerals you've eaten. We're seeing the essential fatty acids you've eaten. The list goes on and on. But a lot of stuff that we don't see as well is creating what we do see, because even our appearance is made from the inside out. Beauty is from the inside out. And so, but, we've got beauty markets that focus on, like, put some shit on your skin. Like, it's all this superficial stuff, but truly, you're made from food. And so to answer that question, it is more nuanced because we're also made of oxygen. We're also made of water, right? And even that solid stuff that we see is still oxygen, if we get into again, talking about quantum physics and we get to talking about like what we're really made of and what the universe is made of, we're mostly empty space, like we're made of biophotons. We're made of light. This gets into some really freaky stuff that, again, like we're not able to comprehend, and we don't even have the courage to oftentimes because it's just too weird. Einstein even stepped away from some stuff. He's like, spooky activity at a distance. We're talking about some of these different topics. He's just like, man, like even that's too weird for me. But here's the thing. And I'm grateful that I just brought up Einstein. There's a quote that's attributed to him that I was really living by that I didn't realize I was doing until I read his quote. And it's that he said that if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough, right? If you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. And there's so much mysterious things that are just shrouded in unnecessary complexity in the language of academia when everybody has the right to know these things. And it's not complicated. The system just makes it complicated, So in this same vein with, what are we made of? We're made of the elements that are around us, but we don't get it because we can separate ourselves cognitively. Like humans don't get that we are part of nature anymore. You are made from the air. It's not just you are what you eat. You are what you breathe.
Yeah.
You are what you drink. And also you are what you think. You are what you think. Because I said this at the beginning, your thoughts create correlating chemistry in your body. One of the most powerful epigenetic influences is your beliefs and your thoughts and your perceptions about reality. One of the other powerful things that was quoted from Einstein was that the most fundamental decision that you make in your life, the most fundamental decision that you make is whether you live in a friendly or a hostile universe. If somebody's intelligent in our culture, we call them an Einstein, right? For him to say a statement like that, the most fundamental decision we make, wow, the most important decision, whether we live in a friendly or hostile universe, because it controls our perception of reality, which controls our biochemistry, right? And now, again, we have fields of science that study these things, psychoneuroimmunology, psychoneuroendocrinology, because we keep using science to affirm basic principles about reality, right? So yeah, to answer that question, it's nuanced because we are so much more, but at the most physical thing we can put our hands on and understand to some degree is that we are made from food. We're made from food and water. And I talk a lot about water and Eat Smarter as well.
I love how you brought up we are what we think, because I think that often comes down to how we perceive food in our life, like whether or not, because I went through an eating disorder, I went through anorexia and bulimia back in 2017, 2018. It never goes away, by the way. It's always, you got to manage it a little bit better. I'm so much better at the moment than I was back then, but still it's very true. Like how I used to see food, it changed over time because how I saw myself then reflected on what I thought I could eat that would then impact my body, which then made me just like, and same with exercise too. So like I would go outside and exercise for 2 hours on end plus because I thought that I was fat and I wanted the six pack abs, you know. Then when I got home, here's a funny thing, right? I think you're going to laugh at this. I would eat 1 kilo bag of spinach a day, just straight out of the bag, just as chips almost. And then I would do something even more crazy. I would put cheese sauce on it. So spinach was basically the staple in my diet. I didn't have anything without spinach. It was spinach juice.
Have you ever seen the Popeye commercials?
I have.
Popeye cartoon.
That's where it came from. As like I grew up watching Popeye, and I was conditioned to believe that, hey, if I ate spinach, I get stronger, you know? So
strong to the finish because I eat me spinach. Wow.
So that's what I did, man. But then what happened was my entire gut just collapsed. It went into lockdown, and it wasn't happy at all with me eating this one food on a consistent basis. Yeah. And that also came from my mindset because I thought, okay, spinach is good for me. I've been told that it's good for me. So therefore I'm going to eat so much of it. But there was no balance. And I just love that analogy that you brought up, especially with the Einstein thing. It was so simple, but I made it complicated.
That's powerful, man. Very powerful. And, you know, just to reiterate with that point, because the actions you were taking were based on your beliefs about reality and your beliefs about who you are, like you just said, you know, and many of us, we have varying degrees of awareness that this is true. But if we do some self-assessment, everything that we do is based on who we think we are. Yeah. I do this. I eat this kind of way because I'm this person. I talk this kind of way because I'm this person. I associate it with my friends and my family because I'm this type of person. We have a belief about who we are, and our actions, our beliefs, our thoughts, and our actions are all in accordance to who we see ourselves as. And so and ultimately, so many of these different issues with our health, we have to change. This is what makes it so powerful, but yet our system of healthcare sucks at it because you have to change your perception of who you are. That's not for the weak-hearted. No. It can actually, the thing is, it can happen instantly, but it's being able to get yourself to the place where you make the decision. The decision is instant. Any decision we've ever made in our life that has had an impact on our life, it's been instant. The decision is instant, but it's getting ourselves to the place where we make the decision. So that's where the work is at for the healthcare professional, you know, for the coach, you know, for the support system, for the friend. It's just getting us to the place for ourselves. We are our number one healthcare provider, getting ourselves to the place where we make the decision. So, I mean, I know we're getting close here on the time, but I think this is a really important topic to talk about because, again, if you really want to change your life, you have to begin to change who you see yourself as.
Yeah.
And the most powerful thing is that you get to decide. If I ask you who you are, if I ask anybody listening who you are, we start, I'm a father, I'm a lawyer, or, I'm a mother. I am an entrepreneur. We start listing these labels we give ourselves. We have personality traits, but we can change all of it instantly. Like literally. Will some negative ramifications happen? Maybe. Like all of a sudden, like if you're a mom of 3 and you're an entrepreneur, you could decide to be, you know what? I'm not a mother, and bounce. I'm not encouraging anybody to do that, but you can instantly change yourself. And I'm saying that literally from my personal experience. All right. Even like I mentioned earlier, I've never met my father. Don't know who he is. My mother bounced on me as well. Like she changed her belief about what a mother is. Okay. And then she changed it to something else later. But those are some negative examples, but you can start to see yourself as, it doesn't matter. So many of us still got our psychology or our belief about ourselves from who we were in high school.
Yeah.
All right. Or, of course, many things come from our childhood, or maybe who you were in college. Maybe you weren't popular in high school and you still got that chip on your shoulder, right? You still just feel like I don't fit in or whatever. But you can decide, you know what? I'm the most charismatic and confident person in this city, and just you can start to not just like fake it till you make it, but like be it till you see it kind of thing, like start to embody that. Don't just like, but what is a confident person? How do they stand? Right? You could change your physiology. What do they believe? What kind of books do they read? Right? If I'm a radiantly healthy person, right? Even if you're not there yet, you start to see and identify yourself as that. Okay, so I want to be this person who is free of this condition, fill in the blank, whatever it is. And I'm radiantly healthy. I've lived in a healthy, vigorous body full of energy. And then you start to ask, okay, how does that person think? What does that person's habits look like? What does that person eat? How does that person speak to themselves? Right? So this is getting into where the real transformation takes place. Like I'm talking like quantum leaps in transformation when we can start to change what we believe about ourselves.
I love this, man. I feel like I could speak to you all day, but I know I've got to be respectful of your time. 2 quick final questions for you, if you don't mind. Sure. So because we're talking about food, this is more of a fun question. So what has been the weirdest food combination you've ever tried?
Oh my God. There's so many things that just came up in my mind. I'll share this one with you. I was at this was back, again, being in this field, I cannot say anything with integrity if I have not tried it. So this was like, I was like doing a raw food protocol, like a raw food diet, raw food vegan, which I've done every diet framework that you can name. I've experimented, but I'll do it for like a year or 2 years to see what happens. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend that kind of experimentation because it will throw your body for a loop, but like paleo, keto, Mediterranean, vegan, all of it. Myself as a place of experimentation. So I was doing a raw food protocol. I went to this raw food restaurant here in Los Angeles, but I didn't live here at that time. I lived in the Midwest and I was just out here. So everything is just super weird to me already, just being from the Midwest and being out here in LA. We go to this raw food restaurant and the chef, this is true story. He had taken a vow of silence and he had not spoken to anyone in like 11 years or something. Chef Ito. All right. This is no bullshit. And the crazy thing is, I'm a very logical, analytical person, but maybe not if I was doing a raw food diet for that. Never mind. Okay. So, and no knock on it, but everything, there's nuance there. But he kind of spoke to you. It's just like this weird thing. Like you really felt like you knew what he was saying. It's just really, it was a weird situation. But we're all done eating. I'm with this group of people that everybody's just weird to me. But I'm equally as weird, because what am I doing there? I definitely stick out like a sore thumb, most likely, being from where I'm from, being at a raw food restaurant in Los Angeles. But he brings out this little plate, and there's like a tiny little dollop of the size of about a penny of like this liquid on the plate. This tiny little dish is a tiny little plate and a little drop of this liquid. Again, it was just about the size of a penny, and a bunch of toothpicks. And literally, this is exactly what I thought. What the fuck is this? It's exactly what I thought. And then I see people, like some of the people, like lighting up because they knew what was happening. I did not know what was happening. And I see them take the toothpick and they dip it into that little bit of liquid. It's like thick. It's kind of like the consistency of maybe like in between hot sauce and ketchup. It was just a little bit less dense or thick than ketchup. And they dipped it in there, and then they put it on their tongue. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like, what is happening here? Why? And so I take my toothpick and join in the fun. I dip it into the little sauce and I put it on my tongue. And I shit you not, I'm not kidding. I felt like I felt like I was getting a tattoo. I felt like somebody was dragging like a tattoo gun through my arms. It was a ghost pepper. But it was like the most strong, I don't know, some kind of legendary whatever pepper, where you literally just take this little dip and it like, gives you all of these sensations. And so I say all of that to say the weirdest thing that I've had. And so that was that. And also there was some durian there as well. So in that one night, I had some really, really weird things and some weird experiences.
Dude, the one thing that I'm thinking about is how in the world can you be a chef and take a vow of silence? Like, you need to speak to people, don't you?
Hey, I mean, he made it work. He made it work for himself. It's so weird. Yeah.
Must have. That is weird. Okay. I love that story. My final question for you, Shawn, this is my all-time favorite question that I ask everyone at the end. So it's a hypothetical. So imagine with me for a moment that you've been able to reach the age of 100. Your friends have all decided to put together a film or a highlight film, whichever one you want, of everything you've ever said and everything you've ever done. Don't ask me how in the world they got it all. We'll call it magic. But they've been able to get it and show it to you on your 100th birthday. What do you want that film to say and to show about your life?
Wow. I wonder if everybody else does this, but I'm picturing what the movie would look like. I'm picturing the play-by-play. I can tell you, there's feelings attached to it. I'll tell you what I'm feeling. I'm feeling very proud. I'm feeling like I was able to remind people of how powerful they are. I'm feeling so grateful that I said yes and helped to spark real change and real health for our citizens and our world family, to solve our bigger problems, which the biggest problem is our health, but the bigger problems that we think that we can't solve right now, there can't be a problem without a solution. And once we get our citizens healthier, we can start to have healthier conversations. So, being able to see that and to be proud and to know that I tapped into some of the potential that my grandmother saw in me. So she's a big part of the film, and her instilling that love and confidence and faith in me, even when I lost everything in my life. I lost my health. I lost my belief in myself. Somebody still held a candle for me, and also, seeing my kids carrying on, not to necessarily do what I'm doing, but even my older son right now, he's out working with a client. He's working with a personal training client. So he's in the fitness space now, health and fitness as well. but seeing them carrying on just to make an impact in the world in their unique way, with their unique voice and their unique perspective. And, at the end, I want my wife to be there. Even at the age of 100, I want her to be 101. Like I want her to, I want to go first. I do not want to live a single day without her. So that's it.
That's beautiful, man. That is a beautiful, beautiful answer. Well, Shawn, where can people find your book? Where can people connect with you, learn more about you?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Here in the US, if folks are listening in the United States, they can pick up the book anywhere books are sold. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, BAM, Books A Million, Target stores. Definitely go out and get a copy or go to target.com. Show Target, which is one of the biggest retailers in the world, that this is the kind of information that we want to see in stores, and even shifting the culture of food there. It's that powerful. But also, just a heads up, even when this is coming out, the books keep getting sold out. So get a copy like right now. If it happens to not be there, then get on the little list like Amazon has, it'll be back in stock. Get it so that when it comes back, if it's out again, as soon as it comes out, because this is one of those things that's going to be a manual, for many years to come, to refer back to. Is so, so powerful. Of course, you can, if you're in the UK, Australia, it will be published there, but it's going to be the deal has been done for a while. I wish it would have come out when, the US distribution came out, but it'll be there. It's looking like March, but you do not have to wait. You can find ways around this. I think you can even change your location on Amazon. And like, people have been messaging me because like my Australian family, oh my goodness gracious, they've been going so hard. There's been many people in Australia who've like paid for crazy shipping amount just to get the book as well. I cannot wait to come there and to do an event and to have fun. Like, this is literally, for me, I'm not exaggerating, one of the top 5 places that I want to visit and to hang out. So it's coming up, but you can do that, and or maybe you could find a workaround with like Google Books, like audio books, Apple Books, and Audible as well. So maybe you can get it on audiobook. So many different ways, there's workarounds, but the most important thing is, especially if you're here in the US, get your copy now. And, again, we're voting with our dollar. We're showing the market that this kind of information is what we demand. We're tired of all the cookie cutter stuff. We want real health. We want real empowering information for our friends and families. So thank you so much for having me on and for me to share everything today. It really does mean a lot.
Absolutely, Shawn. This has been an amazing conversation for me about learning and answering some of the burning questions that I had in my mind. And if people did get something from this, go and buy his book. It's probably going to be 10 times better than this. But honestly, I can't wait to get my copy. But Shawn, thank you so much for coming on the Storybox podcast.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.